threaded lid to it really adds value to it, and it's something that you don't see much anymore. It started way back. I mean, there have been vessels back to the days of the Egyptians that had threaded lids in wood. Now, how they did that, I'm not sure, but that's what we're going to do today. And then, in the turn of the century, when there were a lot of production turners, they didn't have the mechanisms that we have now for putting lids on things, so they turned the lids. So it's a fairly simple process. There are a few steps that you. This is a vessel I made back a good while back. I think Herman and I went down with several others to Bogalusa to a skew event, and that's where I picked up on chasing threads. This is threaded. This is a piece of Paduke. We need to talk about woods for just a moment, but this is the reason why you would want to do a threaded vessel. Now, you can do boxes. You can do all kinds of things with a threaded vessel like that. So, with that being said, let's talk about woods for just a minute. You're going to need a really dense wood. For this example I'm using right here is African blackwood. Paduke are used. A lot of your exotic woods are good enough to use for threading. The stuff we have around here, not so much. Dogwood will thread. Stay away from the oaks, in my opinion, unless you soak them with super glue, CA, to really harden them up. You want something very, very, very dense. Because what will happen is those threads will break out. I'm going to take some Prozac just when I get home with my coffee. But Paduke will work well. A lot of your exotics, Cocobolo will thread, but there again, you've got respiratory challenges for some with the Cocobolo. You want a very dense wood. Now, Bradford pear, and we have plenty of that, will thread pretty good. This piece that I just showed you, I used a piece of Corian countertop, threads wonderfully. So you have to make a good choice with your woods because these threads are going to break out if you're not careful. All right, so let's talk about our tools very quickly. You have two different tools. Let me show them here. This one here is called the inside chaser. It's the female thread. This one here. These tools come in at least 3 different sizes as far as thread size. You got a 10, a 16, and a 20, and that's threads per inch. I use a 16. That's your most common size, and I guess that's personal preference. But this is where I started, and this is what I learned on. This is the male chaser here. It's basically the same thing. It's a 16. You need to sharpen these things. These tools are used as scrapers. Okay, that's all they are. You're not actually cutting the wood. You're scraping the wood. So you need to keep this top profile as sharp as you can. What you can do is lay a diamond file down on the top of it and just dress the top. Okay, just keep this top. Don't come down here on the sides or on the end or anything else. Keep it right on the top, and that'll keep it sharp. Now, one of the things with this particular tool, with the male side anyway, you dress it the same way, but you've got to slide this one a little differently than you do this one. And so what I did, I went to my sander, my little belt sander, and I released this edge right here. It just rolls. It sits flat on the tool rest, and you slide it back and forth like that. So it's just some of the little smaller points that you're going to need to do. And I relieve this, and then I make sure that my tool rest is good, and I put a little wax on both of them. You want it to slide easily. Now, with that being said, if you give me just a minute, let me get my whiteboard. Where's my whiteboard? Okay, because this is such a small demo, it's going to be hard for you to see. So what I thought I would do is show you what I'm doing on this whiteboard, if I can. I'll lift it up where you can see it, like this. All right. So here's the deal. You're going to hollow out this box, okay? Just like that. You make it, we'll just say a box, for example. Hollow it out all the way. Now, to set this inside thread, here's what you do. First of all, you want to set a little chamfer right here. It's not much, just a little bit, you know. You want to take that corner off because you've got to crawl, if you would, see this. You're going to have to start here with your thread and crawl it in. And once you get up here, it's this motion right here. Okay? It's going to be this. Like this. Till you get it where you want it. Another thing you've got to do is come right here and cut a little relief. I'll show you that tool in a minute. Because if you come to the back here and your threads, you don't have this release, you're going to break threads out every time. So you need a place to come out. You need a place to get that chaser out of that wood. Now this is all exaggerated, but that's basically what we're going to be doing. Just like that. Just like that. Same way with the male threads. Just assume this was all done on the inside. We're going to come out on our other piece. You're going to cut a little relief, and you're going to make that circling motion. In other words, that's how you're going to crawl it up. Actually, it'll be this way. Okay? Excuse me. I just wanted to show you this so you'd be aware of what I was doing. It'll be easier to see the male side than the female side. But that's thread chasing 101 right there. That's all you're doing. Now, we can talk about lathe speeds. And some people can turn extremely fast. But I can't do it. I'm not that schooled at it. I have found using the 16 TPI that I use, my speed is between 250, maybe 300. It's slow. It's a slow process, and you can't get in a hurry with it. I can't. And there's no guarantee that this piece today is going to turn out right. But I wanted to show you basically how to get started, and you have to practice a lot. That being said, let me help you out with it. Instead of using up your good wood like I'm using today, this is African blackwood. I wanted to use this because I wanted to not get aggravated and start cussing and throwing stuff because I keep breaking out my threads. Now, y'all don't do that, but I do. So I used blackwood because it's extremely dense. But in order, to practice, you've got to practice in order to get good at this. You've got to practice. So go buy yourself some thick wall PVC. It works perfectly. You can use the inside. It works the same way, and that'll save you some money. I mean, you can do a lot of thread chasing on a 10-foot stick of PVC, and you're doing it just little sections at a time anyway. So I think that's about all I need to do right now. Let me show you one more tool, if I could. This will be used for the female side, like this. Okay? And that's what we're fixing to do right now. You want that tool to be about center, maybe a hair high, okay? And this is how it works, like this. So why do we use this tool right here? Back in the day, the tool rest on the lathe wouldn't move, okay? And so they had, the production turners would have a long one of these, this one right here rather, and they would just hang it on their side and just drop it. And so it was about speed for them, okay? So I learned to do it this way, and I can do a better job actually if I use the tool rest, but I wanted to try to show you exactly how we get that done. Now, when you get started, before you get started, let me say, there's a place to strike this tool, okay? Let's have it up right here, Gerald. There you go, right here. Let me get it up where you can see it. You see, this is the top side. Where you want to start your thread is not on the end here. You don't want to start there. You want to start right about there. The reason being that very front tip's going to catch, okay? This is going to catch right here. So you want to start it right here till you get your thread established, and then, you know, you can go ahead and put the front tooth in. All right, a few little things that nobody tells you except me, maybe. I had to learn it the hard way. Once you start that thread, let the tool pull through, okay? You're not pushing it. You're letting it travel. And when you're letting it travel on the thread, what you're doing is putting pressure on this back side here, very little, and you follow it out, and it's a rhythm. You're putting pressure this way on the piece. Let the tool travel. And if you start pushing it and trying to get it all done at the same time, you're going to break threads out, and it's going to be very aggravating. It's going to be a very fine snuff-like dust that comes out. It's not going to be big shavings, and a lot of that will depend on the wood. Keep a good clean front, you know, and another indispensable tool in thread chasing is this toothbrush. So I just keep everything as clean as you can, and it keeps your threads out too. Also, when you start this wood, you want this to be as parallel as you possibly can get it. You want this parallel. Even though you've got to put a chamfer right here on this corner, on this edge. That's a good shot, Gerald. You're going to put an edge right here, right on that edge. I've already done that, but I'm going to have to touch it up maybe a little bit. And it's going to be enough that you crawl this tool this way first and eventually this way. What you may have to practice doing is looking at the tool and trying to keep this thing parallel with the bed, because if you don't, you're going to get a tapered thread, and that just causes you problems down the road somewhere, okay? That's how you do it. So the first thing I want to do is establish that recess. I took a tool that I was no longer using. I think this was probably a skew or something from Harbor Freight, and they do all right, you know, make little tools like this. I got about 1/8 of an inch recess on it. That's just a little knot right there. I don't know if you can see that very well. You see that? Does that show it? Well, there you go. You see, that's my recess tool. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to put that tool in right about here and make that little recess. And this is hard to see, I understand that. And that's the reason we'll have some in-house training on it one day. All right, so I'm going to move this. I'm going to move this. All right, let's see if I can crank it up. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
5 of 5.
Everybody's good. All right, run your speed up, you know, till you're turning speed. I'm going to go just inside, because it doesn't take a lot of threads, fellas. It don't take a lot of them. Okay, that's established. Pretty good. Pretty good. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. All right, so now find my stuff. Here it is. Thank you. You want to keep that as clean as possible, guys. So, and like I said, you can't get in a hurry when you're doing this. What you're going to have to do is set this this tool rest a little offset, and I'll show you why. You're going to have to work from here, okay? If that tool rest is here, you're going to jam up. So move it out of your way. Hold this under your arm. Put your finger right here and guide it. And what you're going to do is pull. You're going to want to pull. It's like this, okay? There's your motion right there. Right there. You're going to have to take your time. and eventually you'll get it. You know, it's just going to take a lot of practice. There again, I'm telling you right now, this may or may not work for us today. 'Cause I hadn't done this in a while. In fact, the last demo on thread chasing I did was at McGee, Mississippi. I thought about Mr. Rowland. He walked up to me. He said, "You realize it took a lot of guts to do what you did?" And I thought, no, you just got to be stupid to try to demo something like this, not knowing how. So, but let me say this, Mr. Rowland. I'm still just as dumb today as I was the day you told me that. So, nothing's changed, but I'm willing to try. How about that? So, we'll give it a shot. All right, guys, we want to start. We ready? Any questions? Any questions? I guess that means no. Okay, so you see where I'm starting this tool? I'm about the third or fourth tooth up, and I'm not way out here. It's at about a 45, and I just want to touch it. Touch it. All right, it's forming up. Y'all see that fine little dust? See? So it's not much. And that tool is actually pulling in. So I'm just going to work my way around. If you hear all kinds of clicking noises while you're doing this, that'll be your threads breaking out. So all right, let's look. Can you see the threads? They're starting to form up. Now, what's happened is I'm getting a double thread because I mislicked it. And when you do that, you know, you run into the back, in other words. So you just really have to just maintain the same speed till you get it set. Hey. Yes. 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 Yeah, and that's probably what I need to do. Yeah. Let me yeah. There you go. So anyway, that's how we're doing it. Sure. Probably the 16 is the most prevalent. It's the one I learned or am learning on. I haven't mastered it yet by any means. The 10, that's a little coarser, so you could run your lathe a little, you know, a little differently than that, and it'd probably be easier to use a 10. But on smaller vessels, you know, the 16 seems to fit the bigger, you know, when I say big stuff like boxes or urns. And I guess it would depend on the vessel, but 16 is the most common one. So I guess it's personal preference, really. And I bought these from Terry Jader at the club at a good deal, and that's another reason I use a 16. Yes. Well, again, there are more learned men with this technique than I, for sure. And again, it may or may not fit. But yeah. So if you guys have anything to add to this now, feel free to jump in. I am not the master thread chaser at all, but you can kind of see the process. And again, it may or may not fit. So let me dress these up a little bit. We were in Mr. Rowland's shop a good while back, back earlier in the year, and he had a little nut and bolt. I mean, it probably wasn't that long, hardly, that he had made, and I just found that so interesting. He can definitely chase threads. There's no doubt about it. So there's a lot of little things you can do with this. So, all right, Gerald, let's go at it again, buddy. And he's right. Once I got that relief a little better, that tool is just pulling in, so I know I'm getting a good thread. A good clean sound and a rhythm. And as far as I can tell, I'm parallel. All right. So that thread is established. That's a pretty decent thread right there. It's not chipped out. I'm fairly pleased with that. Sure. Pardon? Well, that's a good question. What I normally do is you need to look at it if you can where light. It's going to be the depth of this tool. Okay, right here. I don't know, you need to swing that around, Gerald, maybe. Yeah, we're going to need a light so you can see. This tool will set that depth. All right, thank you. Yes, it will. Do you see that? You see that tool? No, let me go the other way. I don't know if you can see that or not. Yeah. That ain't going to work. But anyway, like I said, this is a demo. You really need to be standing here. But what I do is I'll look at the thread with my tool in there, and if it matches up, well, that's it. That's where you go. I guess you could keep grinding it off, but once you get it to where you want it to be, that's how deep. And it doesn't take much thread. That's a pretty decent thread right there. So that's the female side. Any questions at all? Yes. Yes, sir. All right. What I have learned here recently, two things. Number one, Mr. Sorby makes a gauge. Okay. Put it back down here, Gerald. He makes a gauge that goes in and he measures the inside here what I use are these calipers, and I'm probably going to wind up buying a set of his measurers. So I've got a measurement here, okay, where I need it. When I get ready to, is Mr. Rowland still coming back?
I think he wants to get a tool.
Yeah, I want everybody to see that if he's got it. That's good timing.
Also say something about the diameter at the top, depending on what you do in a box or whatever to match.
Yeah, we're going to get to that for sure. Let me get this piece set. So, guys, what happens is, you got to do the top now, and what I like to do is get this set where it needs to be. I know Mr. Rowland's coming back, or should, if he's not already. You there, Mr. Rowland? I hope this works out. It may not, but if it don't, we'll go to something else. I'll just say that's all I got. Keep going. Yes. Yes. Well, that's money well spent right there. That's about a $40 piece, if I remember from last night. The way I'm doing it today is not a very accurate way, but what you've got right there, guys, that's what you need right there. I mean, that's indispensable. Yes, I can, yes. And what I'm probably going to do when I get home is make one of those right there. Again, I didn't know, I was flying by the seat of my pants when I learned this. But cutting that relief is important. Well, see, I'm learning today as well, so. Well, I'm glad you did, Mr. Rowland. I've been wanting to purchase one of those. You know, the way I've learned it is a hack way. You know, I'm everybody knows that I'm pretty much just a hack when it comes to this stuff. So I'm learning today as well, and I do want one of those gauges. What I've got here now, I've measured the inside with these calipers, and now it's just kind of a scientific guess of how far to go down, and set my relief and get that done. So, but with that tool Mr. Rowland's got, just keep that shot right there, Gerald. That's a good place to do it. With the tool that Mr. Rowland has, it's more accurate, and indeed I will be getting one of those. But for today, I don't have it, and so I'm going to use this. Now this is the inside, so what I have learned to do, you've got to make the outside just a fraction bigger in order to get the fit. With that being said, I will do what? Oh, it's just a skew right now. Nothing fancy. It's what I had available. Y'all, y'all remember you get what you pay for, right? Right? Everybody understand that?
Yep.
Well, I ain't charging nothing, so you ain't really getting nothing today. So just watch and enjoy, okay? All right, I'm gonna set my chamfer here a little bit.
Before you go any further, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
When you get this far, I know you do something on the inside of your tops on your boxes. Do you do that after you thread or before? Like a little hollow and do that?
Oh yeah, yeah. For me, what I do, I get that box as close on the inside to finish as I can, because if you try to go back into that box to do anything, you're liable to mess those threads up. You know, I mean, in my house, anything can happen. So I try to get as much finish on the inside as I can. Now, if you're just doing a plug top like this, it's not so much necessary. So, does that make sense to you? You know, and what I have done in the past, and I still do, once I get everything done on the inside and the threads cut, I'm almost through with my box. I always leave the tenons on. Number one, because you can make a good top, and you can cut them off the bottom. It's not a problem. But what I like to do is, once I get that lid on, and there's a way to match that grain, I want to talk about it. It's not really in our class today, but I can show you how to make that adjustment. You want the top and the bottom to adjust in grain. When you do that, I turn that whole box by itself with the lid on it. Now, it's going to get tight, and I use a tailstock, you know, and try to get it all matched up. If it doesn't match up, what I do is come right here with a square tool. I've got one. Don't cut on the top part to make the adjustment. You want to cut on this end right here on, I don't know if this green's going to show up. You'll take that shoulder down just ever so slightly. I mean, just ever so slightly. And you keep test fit, until you get it to where you want it. That's not part of our lesson today, but I did want you to get that. Now, to set that recess, everybody has one of these in their shop. You may not know it yet, but you've got one. It's called a point tool. It's a 3-sided point tool. This was a screwdriver that I picked up on the road or something, and I put a three-sided edge, or tried to, and it does very well. And what you want to do is set that same recess that we used on this piece here. You know, that's got a recess. Well, this has got to have a recess too. The best way to do it, for me in my shop, is to use this.
Tim, did you remeasure your diameter?
Pardon?
Did you remeasure your diameter?
On which male or female?
The male.
Yes. What I did was, see, I wanted to be proud. I wanted to be proud. It's just enough. You've got to take it down to where this right here just barely goes in. I got to take it down some more. You want it to just barely be able to come into this right here. Not all the way, obviously, but just barely. And then you can crawl it down with your chasers. So you want these sides to be parallel. I have a tendency to leave this side higher than this side, so I really have to make an effort to watch. I don't know if anybody else has that problem, or if it's common to all, I don't know, but it is at my house. Again, you could probably, you can go online and find all kinds of demos on this. They asked me to do it, and so here I am. Thank you, Gerald. See, it's still a little big. The gentleman that I learned this from is from Louisiana, and he got me started. We did it at the SKU event. That's been a long time ago. Herman and I rode down together, and that was one of the most educational days I've had in a long time. I forget the gentleman's name. He was very proficient at it. Made it look easy, actually. He made it look so easy, I thought I could do it. Well, it's a noisy bunch today, isn't it? Noisy bunch. All right, getting a little close. This is all try and fit, guys. I guess with that tool it would be a little differently. That's good. That makes a lot of sense.
That's right.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Now, who was that?
Trey.
Yeah, Trey, I appreciate you saying that. Like I said, guys, I'm still learning how to do this, okay? Anytime you've got something to add, just like that right there, you're talking about coming in here, if I understand you, Trey, and using this right here to fit inside of those threads, correct? And then that'll give you the gauge of where you need to go with the rest of this, correct? Yes, great idea. That's good news right there. I appreciate that. Yes, that makes sense. That's good news. I'm glad you said that. I'm going to go home and practice that. I guess I should do it here, but since that fits all right. But that's the kind of thing we need to hear. Again, I'm probably the least qualified in the room to do this, but you know, it kind of gives you an idea of what we're trying to do. All right, so I got to put my recess in. I got so excited about what Trey was saying, I forgot where I was. All right, so let's put the recess on the back. Let me go ahead and say something right quick. We're all learning, you know. We can all learn from everybody. Now, I can think of 3 or 4 people in the room right now that can do this better than I can. And I like to do it in front, and it's kind of intimidating in a way. It's kind of like doing a carving with Sammy standing there watching you. But that's how Sammy learned. He stood in a room with folks that could do it better than he could. Now, there are not many can say that now. So, you know, just because you're not proficient at it doesn't mean you can't do a demo. But you can also learn. And people like Trey, and I know Roland Pim's a great, and Don Ritchie. I mean, there's talent. There's all kinds of talent in the room today to do certain things. So I want you to know I really appreciate all the help you can give me with this. This is 101, you know, basic 101, and maybe not even 1. Maybe it's just a 10. I don't know, but we're going to work with it, and I appreciate it. You can see those threads forming up. I would imagine Sammy could probably thread because he's got a machinist background, you know, and that's basically what you're doing in a way. Yes. You could use a parting tool, but I like the way this 3-point. For me, I can adjust the shoulder. This shoulder, I can keep it flat and get a good angle on this. It's just what I picked up from some others. That's what they used, and I said, well, I'll try it, and I like it. Now you certainly could use a skew. However, if you were in the front part of this meeting, ain't everybody here good with a skew. I use it for a door stop. I use it for a scraper. I've even pried the lids off of paint cans with it, but I don't know how to properly use a skew yet. So, you know, I have to use what I got. But those who are used to a skew, you could certainly do it. You know, no doubt about it. No, let's see what's going to happen here. Maybe nothing. I don't know. Hey. There it is. If I'd finish it out, I could snug it all the way up. I'll get a little more, then we'll take a break and like I say, Randy knew. I know he's in the room. One of the best turners in our club. He has a job where it's hard for him to get away. You know, you can't turn wood sitting on the front end of a combine. I understand that, but he's an excellent wood turner, and he could probably turn this faster and easier than what I'm doing. But there again, you know, everybody's got to start somewhere. Let's see. Now, can y'all see the threads?
Yes.
Y'all can see those threads right there. You know, that's a good thread right there. It's not breaking out, and the reason being because it's a very hard wood. And that's the reason I wanted to use it. But that's pretty, you know, that's pretty decent right there, you know. That ain't half bad. One of the things that you have to watch for, or I do, is I still tend on this back side here to get this too high. And so I have to constantly adjust to that. Let's see if it'll thread up. I told Gerald, I said, if it don't thread up, I'll just act like it did. Nobody will ever know the difference since you're not here. So, there you go. Well, that's how it works, guys. Of course, you know, if I worked on it, I could finally get it all the way up. And you hear that squealing. Probably needs a little wax in it as well. Yeah. You know, and like I said, this is kind of thrown together for me, but do y'all see the basic 101 principles of what we're doing? Anybody? Do we still have anybody with us, Gerald? Are they still here?
They're all there.
Go figure. Well, I really appreciate that. Which ain't saying nothing, but I appreciate your confidence.
Hey guys, I recognize almost all y'all's voices. Some folks don't. If you'll identify yourself when you make a comment, it might make it a little easier to go around and get back to the person who's talking.
That was rolling.
No, I was talking about
That was,
Does anybody have any questions whatsoever? Anything you want to add? Anything I did wrong? Correct me now, because I'm here to learn too. You know, there are so many. Go ahead. Yeah, Joe. Yes. Well, it doesn't take. See, I got a lot of threads here, and I don't have a lot of threads on this piece. Yes, that's my understanding. Yes. See if you, and it takes a little. Yeah, and I've got them too long, so you know. And like I said, there's a lot of things that I wish I had enough sense to cover. But another thing is this recess here. I need this the inside part here. Let me find myself. Okay, right there. Can you see that recess? That little edge in the very back, that little white ring at the top? Y'all see that? That's what I was hitting. So I've got to learn to get past that. See, you don't want the top to go to that. That's the stop, as it were. That's part of that recess. So, you know, there's a lot of adjustments. It's all just trial and error and adjustments to try to get it right. But fellas, that's basically it. And put you some wax on it. And you know, I did pretty good with this piece here. We'll just leave it here. That's a good shot right there. This is a piece of corian. This is a piece of Paduke. And the threads work just perfectly. You know, it just, of course, I'd used up a lot of wood before I got to this stage. I haven't chased any threads in probably a year and a half, you know, but it's good and tight. It fits well. I finished this piece on the lathe so I could get this, you know, leveled out. And, you know, it's good. That corian really does a good job. Pardon? They really do. Oh yeah. I mean that's spot on for, you know, it's extremely dense. A lot of the woods we use around here, like I said, I have not ever threaded any pecan. Randy, are you still with us? Have you ever chased any pecan? That's what I was thinking. I've not tried any. Dogwood, they say, does very well. Bradford pear, probably persimmon and osage. Osage would do well. You know, maybe some locust, black honey locust. You know, something hard. It's got to be extremely hard to take a. Beg pardon? Yes. Right. The what is, I can't pronounce that wood. The hardest wood known to man is what, Roland? It lignum vitae. Yes, lignum vitae.
I think there's one actually harder than that.
Is not much harder, and it could be.
That's close.
There's a chart that's out, and I don't know if it's on our website yet. It probably will be. We've got so much on that website. A lot of these guys go by specific gravity of the wood, or there's a hardness scale as well, that compares to to minerals. But lignum vitae's specific gravity is 1.25, and that's as hard as I've seen anywhere. That's extremely hard. The blackwood here, pardon me, the blackwood specific gravity is like 0.25. All that's saying is extremely dense, extremely dense. Sir? Exactly. I really had rather use corian on the few pieces that I've used. It's such a, and it's very forgiving. You know, I mean, it can take some abuse, as it were, when you're trying to thread it in. Not like my favorite wood really is cherry. I love cherry, but it doesn't thread very well, or at least I can't do it. I guess a master threader could probably thread anything, but it takes a real dense wood or acrylic. You know, if you got some acrylic, you guys that cast a lot of things, acrylic works great. I mean, it's as good as the corian. So that's basically all I got. Any more questions, guys? I appreciate so much your indulgence with this. Again, I'm not the best chaser, but I said that at the front. But I learned some things today as well. I like the idea Trey had about putting that little, I guess you could say a shoulder, if you would, a little tenon on the end that fits inside. That gives you the perfect gauge, and that will save you a lot of times. The gentleman that I learned from in Louisiana had a totally different way of doing it. He had a box. He basically cut the tenon in it while it was still together, and then he parted the top off, and before he did, he burned it with his knife, so it let us know. You know, that burn area was the part. I didn't like that area. You know, I didn't like that way of doing it. But I do like the idea of what Trey had. So, is there any more questions? Please. Yeah, that's great. In fact, so in other words, take the skew and cut the peaks off, and then chase it back. That makes good sense. Really, why is that? I wondered about that. I wondered about the lignum. You know, they talk about how hard it is, and it's expensive as all get out. Okay, well, let me ask this question. I have read where some guys actually lubricate their threads as they're chasing. Have you had success with that? They were referencing like a wax, you know, to lubricate it. That's good. That's good. Oh, that's good news right there. That's good. That's good news. Great. Anybody else? Okay, Joe? Joe? Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, the PVC is good for that. Really doing this demo has kind of charged me back up to get back into some chasing to keep developing that skill. But yeah, Buddy did that with a piece of PVC. I've seen it done with acrylic. I've seen obviously wood, but that urn that Buddy did for himself, you're right, he did use PVC and it worked quite well. Well, I mean, the set costs $74. It's $100 when you get the gauge that goes with it. I can tell you who that was. That was Charlie White that made his own thread chasing tool. That, yeah, it was at McGee when we were down at the McGee place. The gentleman's name I can't remember, but he demoed the thread chasing, and Charlie said, "Well, I just use a bolt, so." Well, I found the secret to making. Now, y'all. This is where you take notes from me, okay? I have figured out the formula for making, say, $1 million with the wood turning. And if anybody's interested, I'll let you know right now. Yeah, you've got to start out with 2 or 3 million before you get to that point. So, I mean, that's just